Searching is a suspense thriller that stars John Cho and Deborah Messing, which is all filmed from the perspective of computer screens, cell phones, personal video cameras, pretty much anything technology-based. You know, similar to films like Unfriended, you know, that kind of found footage model, which I believe did, honestly, a disservice, Unfriended did a disservice to any films beforehand that tried to do this kind of story, as well as to every single film that followed after, because of how terrible it is. You know, it's all thanks to Unfriended's lazy storytelling and the obvious fact that the filmmakers didn't know how, you know, computer technology worked. The basic story is that a girl named Margot has gone missing, and her dad David, who's played by John Cho, is trying to help a police detective, who is played by Deborah Messing, try to figure out what her day-to-day life was so that, you know, he can help them possibly find her. And as he as he dives deeper into this rabbit hole, which is like right in the middle of her personal laptop, he begins to realize that there was more to his daughter's life than he originally thought. Now, before I start, I do want to do a disclaimer, which is what I always do before I get into those things. So, for those of the uninitiated, those who've never seen any of my videos, the way that I break down my thoughts is I do a pro and con list. And if anybody's confused as to how that would work, or how I'd actually break it down, I just do the pros as everything that I liked, and then the cons, pretty much everything that I either didn't like, or maybe it was lacking in a certain quality. And I try to keep each section separate, but sometimes I'll use one to transition into the other, you know, pro to a con, and then vice versa. But again, I try to keep them separate. And I do this disclaimer because I feel like there have been people in the past who've gotten confused, and they don't, I've actually had people ask me, wait, what did you think about the movie? What did you actually think about this? And I said, but that was a pro. Yeah, what do you mean? So, you know, now I put this disclaimer in front of each video, so there you go. Anyway, let's, I can't speak today. That's your disclaimer right there. Let's go ahead and get into the review. As I mentioned earlier, Unfriended has tried this version of filmmaking before, and as well as a couple of other ones that I've not seen, and a couple of other ones that I have, but I don't remember them, because at the most, they weren't bad, they just weren't good, that kind of thing. But I do remember thinking that on top of the terrible acting across the board, the filmmakers obviously didn't know just how technology and computers work. They would even seem to create their own off-brands of things like Facebook, Google, YouTube, and just start making up rules as far as how those websites work, that, you know, it wouldn't come across as realistic because their real-life counterparts would not be able to do this, or just wouldn't because it'd be stupid. But in this film, they take the idea of telling a narrative just through the technology of computers and smartphones, and try to be as creative as possible, but within the confines of how that technology actually works, and also how those different sites actually work. They even made sure that they got the rights to, or maybe not the rights, but at least the permission. They got the permission to utilize the real websites for this. They actually went out and either got the rights or permissions from, or scratch that. They even made sure to utilize real websites. They actually went out, and I'm not sure if you need to get rights or if you need to get permission from the websites, but either way, they at least got permission from places like Google, YouTube, and even Tumblr, and, you know, many other ones, even websites that I had never heard of, but that my wife was able to tell me, no, this is a real site. And even though they seemed like a blatant ripoff of a similar site that I was more familiar with, but Mallory would just say, no, this was like a precursor to that one. So then I would just accept what she's saying and move on. And also, because they use the actual websites in the film, you see characters utilizing the websites as you would probably expect them to be utilized and presented. You know, the Facebook pages look like legitimate Facebook pages. The Tumblr pages look like legitimate Tumblr pages. And it helps actually flesh out this entire thing because it feels more real. It doesn't necessarily feel like it was just crafted to be shown for a few split seconds in a film. Not only did the filmmakers understand technology and grasp how the technology worked, you could tell that they also had at least a bit of a grasp on how people utilize the technology. I mean, while I'm not the best with technology, since I didn't get a chance growing up to really experiment with how it is, and, you know, right now I just have basic computer skills and, you know, a little bit of extra stuff that I learned while doing this channel. My wife, Mallory, went to a 21st century school, and that's a big difference compared to mine, especially because she actually got issued a laptop and she did a lot of her schoolwork on said laptop. And she was able to understand how a lot of the characters would organize their different folders in there. Like when David's looking through Margot's laptop, looking at all of her folders for schoolwork, I remember Mallory sitting next to me like, oh my god, I did it exactly like that. And I don't know, it was nice seeing her get nostalgic about something that small and, I don't know, like what seemed insignificant to me at the time. But, you know, again, it didn't necessarily matter because, you know, it wasn't my, it wasn't any of my memories, it was hers. So, you know, all I could do was basically, not sympathize, that sounds wrong. I don't know what word to use for that. And unlike Unfriended, where for the most part, or actually no, for the majority part, probably like a difference of 99% to 1%, it feels like some of the things that they do in there have no consequence or purpose to the story. The good thing with Searching is that everything seems to have a logical or at least a purposeful excuse as to why we are seeing what we're seeing and some of the choices that the main character makes. Like, even if it's not something that makes sense, you kind of understand where they're coming from. And of course, some things don't work out as well as others, but I do think that there was some success overall in that part. And I will actually go ahead and transition into one of the cons. One of them was just that there were a couple of moments I came across as a bit too unrealistic, particularly a specific YouTube video that shows up halfway through the film. John Cho's performance as David, for the most part, was pretty good, although there are a couple of moments, excuse me, where I think he goes a little too hard on the emotional acting department. There is a musical score that went along with the film, and while I thought that there were moments where the score kind of hindered the movie by, you know, basically being in a scene where it really wasn't needed, or maybe it cued us a little too early in on a shocking revelation or a really sad moment, I really thought that having, you know, background orchestrations worked surprisingly well for this movie, and I do think that it did overall add to the film in a positive manner. But my favorite aspect of the film is the story. I really felt like my expectations were subverted through this movie many times because it takes its time actually letting things unfold, and the choices that the filmmakers make in the creation of this narrative aren't, you know, they aren't outside the realm of possibility. I already did mention a couple of cons, but I do have one more left. Some of the acting from the side characters aren't the best, but it's not to the point where it's a detriment on the film. You know, I'm talking about actors that are only in scenes for a few seconds. Overall, though, I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was absolutely fantastic, and while the story itself was a highlight to me, it seems as though maybe going into this film, the primary focus for the filmmakers was not on making the story. However, the story's good because they were taking their job seriously, and they said, no, we need to actually, you know, make this quality compared to everything else. But I feel like Searching, to me, feels like an experiment in creative limitations inside of a specific medium, one that has been floundered multiple times, and this experiment, I think, worked out, or more than worked out in the long run. And those are my feelings on the film, or scratch it. And those are my feelings on Searching. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't hesitate to hit that like button. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button so that you can keep up to date with everything that's going on the channel. And also, don't forget to keep the conversation going down below in the comment section. I really enjoy seeing what you guys think about the movies and topics that I bring up on my videos. Now all that's left to do is say farewell until the next video, all you movie fans and casual moviegoers alike, and keep on being awesome.